Hello there guys and welcome to another episode of Genuine Chit Chat. This week I am once again joined by my friend Sean Lloyd. Now if you tuned in last week you'll have heard mine and Sean's conversation about quite a wide variety of things, including social matters, the Black Lives Matter movement, those sorts of things as well kind of got incorporated after we explained how we met and that sort of thing. But this week we spoke about something that basically completely changed gear, so I decided to release it as a standalone episode. So this one is all about Sean's travelling. He went to Asia and he went to Thailand, he's also been to America a fair amount. So we speak about that for the majority of the chat, and then we also speak about the food of America and a little bit about the cost of living in Wales compared to England. So that's generally what this chat incorporates. You don't have to listen to last week's chat if you don't fancy it, but if you want to get to know Sean a little bit more, I do recommend it. That's really it. I'm not going to go into much detail into what we actually speak about. As I said, it's a shorter chat, so you guys can look forward to those things. There's not going to be a promo today, so you guys can kind of delve right in. And yeah, I mean, there's not really much else to add. But if you're a first-time listener, I'd say that once the chat is finished with myself and Sean, I will be back at the end just to talk about what's coming in the future weeks, what I've got recorded, what kind of guests I've got lined up and things, as well as just a little bit of information of my other podcast, Star Wars Comics in Canon. So really appreciate you guys listening and checking the show out. If you really like it, subscribe on the usual places, follow on the social media channels, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and spread the word to your friends if you think it deserves it, as well as leaving reviews and stuff. So really appreciate all you guys listening, and yeah, I'll talk to you at the end. Welcome to Genuine Chit Chat, where we have honest conversations with interesting people, and I'm your host, Mike Burton. I would ask you, Sean, actually, about travelling. Because I think you've travelled. I've only been inside of Europe, except when I went to Mexico last year for 2 weeks, and that was, it was in a nice hotel. I went on some excursions, which were really cool, but it was paid for by my girlfriend's mum due to her mum passing away a couple of years ago, and them having a fair amount of money from that, so they want to sort of treat the family and things. So I'm very, very honoured to have gone to that. But if I went to Mexico, South America, I would travel a bit more, do that sort of thing. But I've only been around Europe, but you've been around Asia and quite a few different places, haven't you? So what are some of the places you've been to, and what's some of your favourites?
Yeah, so I can't decide where I want to go, basically, because I'm sort of stuck in this cycle of working 9 to 5 and then getting money to go on holiday for a couple of weeks and then come back, like most of us pretty much are. I sort of go somewhere, come home and think, I want to go somewhere completely different this time round. And so yeah, basically, I've been to Thailand twice. That was awesome. It's definitely a once in a lifetime experience. I hate Bangkok. I will never stay in Bangkok for longer than a day or two, because it is just a typical overcrowded city. But when you start going into the Thai countryside, we went to this place. So basically, what I tend to do, I'll go on organised group travel, so I'll meet people there who I don't know. I'll just jump on a plane and meet a load of strangers and spend 2 weeks with them. So we went to this place in Thailand called Khao Sok National Park, and it is literally the most beautiful place I've ever seen in my life. We stayed on these floating wooden bungalows. You've got everything sort of all prepared for you, so your meals are always prepared for you at a certain time. There's a shop there where you can just buy loads of alcohol, which I enjoyed very much. You go swimming in this lake, and this lake that we're swimming in is 600 feet deep. You cannot see the bottom of it.
Jeez.
It's just like this perpetually flooded valley. There's tigers, obviously, you're not near the tigers, but there's tigers, there's monkeys, there's everything. It's just such a beautiful place. I've never seen anything else like it. I went to a full moon party as well, which was dog shit.
A full moon party? Yeah,
so there's a full moon party that goes on in a lot of places around Southeast Asia, where you usually get a lot of internationals flock into this certain place in Thailand, Cambodia, Vietnam. I'm not sure about Vietnam. But you get people flock into these places, and they'll just have a night of complete debauchery, what's it called, luminous bands, luminous paint all over you. It's night of a full moon, basically. And you just drink these buckets full of cocktails and just get absolutely hammered. My experience at the full moon party, I enjoyed the nights before it better than the actual full moon party, because you get to this beach, right? There's a military blockade there as you're going into town. Now, obviously, I'm not a user of drugs, except alcohol. You could argue that, but like I suppose a lot of people that were in the taxi were evidently because they were like one of the tour guides in the taxi. He was like, "Oh, shit, there's a military blockade on the way to the village, so if you've got any drugs, I suggest you do them now."
Wow.
And oh yeah, Thailand, they'll proper prosecute you for it as well. I don't know how I don't know how people have got the balls to like just get a load of drugs in Thailand. Like I don't understand. But like my experience of it was just a beach full to the rafters. You could not move. Like there were so many people there. And I don't know if this again makes me like a miserable 70-year-old man in a 20-something-year-old body, but I just remember I was really drunk anyway, right? Because I was drinking these buckets full of cocktails before I even went. But I distinctly remember some Thai bloke just in my ear constantly offering me ketamine. And I was just like, I was pissed. So I was just like, no, I don't want it. And he was just like, ketamine? I was like, no. And he was like, ketamine? I was like, no. like, and obviously you don't want to be aggressive. You don't fight Thai people in Thailand. You don't do it. And I'm not a fighter anyway. You know that. But like, yeah, I distinctly remember being offered that night. But my sort of my favourite story that I tell people of Thailand, again, sort of in this sort of like little beach village, and the hostel I was staying at was a good, I don't know, say 10-minute drive away from the beach. It was just like on this road on this island, this tiny island, Koh Phangan. And when I go on holiday, I like to have a drink, right? So I started at like 11 in the morning. It was then 4 o'clock the next morning. I was drinking all day. To this time, I was ready for bed. So I was just like, all right, okay. And I said to the people I was with, oh, is anyone ready to go home? Because I am. I'm going. He said no. So I just sort of ventured into town on my own. And there was a woman holding a sign that said taxi. I was like, oh, I want a taxi. And she said, oh, you want a taxi? Follow me. So I was like, all right, okay. So I started following this woman. And obviously, again, massively inebriated. So I started following this woman. And I don't know how long I followed her. I followed her for at least 5-10 minutes. And then I realised that I was in the jungle, like I was out of town. I was like, I realised, I was like, where the fuck am I? Like, if I turned back now, I wouldn't know where I was going. Do you mean? So I was entirely placing my life in the hands of this woman now, right? When I told my parents this, they went berserk. They were like, anything could have happened to you, which in hindsight it could have, right? But like, she takes me to this car, and it's like like a Mitsubishi L200, just like a pickup truck. She says, "Oh, taxi." I said, "That's not a taxi. That's your car." And she said, "Yes, my taxi." I said, "That's not a taxi." She said, "Do you want a taxi?" I said, "Yeah, I do actually." So I got in the car, right? And I was a bit like, obviously, even though I was like really drunk, I sort of like come to realize, this could be very bad. Like it was in my head. I was like, this could be quite bad. And she looked at me, and I was sort of like putting my seatbelt on, and she goes, "Do not fear for your safety." And that had me then. I was like, oh look, someone's gonna like beat me up for something for my money. So I bargained with her in the end. I was like, look, whatever the fare is, I'll pay you double if you just get me back safe. Right? And she probably would have done that anyway, but I wasn't taking any chances. I was, how old was I? 21, 22, in the middle of the Thai jungle with some woman I didn't know in her car. Do you know what I mean? I was just like, right, let's bargain with her. So I did. I ended up paying her something like, was it like a equivalent of a tenner? It was like 500 baht or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my favourite story from Thailand.
And you obviously didn't die, so.
Yeah, exactly. I'm still here. But she made sure I pay. I was like, I've got half now, and then I'll go to my room in the hostel and get the other half. And she followed me into the hostel. She was like, she followed me. So she made sure I paid. Like, so who knows? But like, when I told my parents, they really weren't happy with that. But
that's mental.
Yeah, yeah. That's That's one of my more exciting stories.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, I've not been outside of Europe bar that little trip to Mexico. And, I did a fair amount of travelling with my parents. Like, my dad used to like going places, and sort of my mum, so obviously when I was younger, I used to go with them. And I'm very fortunate to have gone to quite a few places like that. But I haven't done a huge amount of like worldly exploring on myself. But is there anywhere in the world that you really, really want to go that you haven't been yet?
Yeah, there's quite a few places actually. Like I definitely want to see more of Southeast Asia. That's mainly due to the fact that it's so cheap. Like it's the expensive part is getting there, but when you're there, you can live like a king on nothing. Put it into perspective, right? In 2015, I went to Magaluf with a load of sort of boys from the village. There's 18 of us went, and I went for a week, and I spent £1,000. Right. When I went to Thailand a couple of years later, I was there for 2 weeks, so I was there for twice as long, and I spent £700. Like it's so much cheaper. So that's one of the main reasons I'd want to go there and see things like there's a thing in Vietnam, like the Hand of God Bridge, which I'm really keen on seeing.
Yes. Megan showed me a picture of that actually. It looks awesome.
Yeah, it does. And as I said, I'm a keen historian, and I feel like even bad parts of our history, people should be educated and know that. So I'm very keen to go to Cambodia, see the killing fields, stuff like Khmer Rouge. I think I'm saying that right. I'm keen for that, but I'm also dying to see parts of Africa as well. Like, I really, really want to go to South Africa, much to my father's dismay, because he's got some sort of idea that I'll get robbed or killed or anything. And South America as well. Like, I know Megan, your girlfriend, she speaks fluent Spanish, doesn't she? And she teaches Spanish. I started learning myself a couple of years ago, so I'm very keen to sort of put that to practice. I'm very keen to like explore the South American culture as well.
Yeah, I mean, South America, there's a lot of places. But with me, it's almost like I wish, another reason why I'd loved for the podcast to make me rich behind my wildest dreams, because then I could just be like, look, I fancy going on a trip around Asia, and with Asia, sort of, Southeast Asia, that sort of thing. There's places, there's Vietnam, there's Cambodia, and then there's other places like, this isn't necessarily the same area, but there's China, there's Japan, there's Korea, obviously, South Korea, not North Korea. But there's also places where I'd like to be there for like 2 or 3 days, a lot of them. And it's almost like, I'd like to go to China. I'd like to see the Terracotta Army. I'd like to see the Great Wall of China. I'd like to know a lot about the sort of the Chinese dynasties and things. I love the sort of history of that. They've got such an incredible history. I'd love to see some of the sort of samurai armor and that sort of stuff and all kinds of different aspects of it. But I wouldn't necessarily want to spend 2 or 3 weeks in China. I'd want to spend 2 or 3 days, see the historical points of interest, and then move to the next place. As you said, Cambodia, the killing fields. Obviously, Vietnam's got a huge amount of history with the Vietnam War with America. And obviously, there's loads beyond that, but I don't know enough about beyond that. And the way I mainly learn things is if you're there from museums and stuff. So me as an individual, I'd love to just say, hey, here, you don't have to work ever again. Cool. And here's 10 grand you could just spend traveling. And then I go, okay, I'll fly straight to China and then spend, a few days there. I wouldn't go into some fancy hotel, but like the traveling costs of trying to travel quickly via plane or whatever from all the different places in Asia to each other and only spending 2 or 3 days in each one, that will cost an absolute fortune. And it's similar to South America. Like South America, they've got, got the Aztec ruins, they've got the Mayan ruins, they've got the, there's 3 main ones, isn't there? Bloody hell. I had all 3 and they've gone.
Yeah, so I've been to the same area of Mexico as yourself. I love the Yucatan Peninsula. That's the sort of the Mayan civilization in it. One of my friends, Jose, he lives in New York. He's of sort of Mayan descent in Mexico, right? And he was telling me about all this sort of Mayan mythology. He spent a lot of his childhood in his grandparents' house down in Yucatan in Mexico, and he tells me about all these mythological figures. Now, the ruins in Tulum, stayed near there. Did you go to those ruins in Tulum with the temple of Kukulkan, the like serpent thing?
I'm trying to think. There's 4 sets of ruins around the area I went to, and I went to 2 of them. I don't think I went to the ones of Tulum. I think me and Megan wanted to, we didn't, but we went to the main. Oh my god! Megan's got a tattoo of it. I should know this. Oh. Chichen Itza. There
Chichen Itza, yeah.
I'm so glad I got that because I just seem like such a bloody scrub. But sorry, he was saying about Tulum.
Yeah, so Tulum, I stayed near those. I didn't manage to get to the ruins. I would like to go to Mexico and experience real Mexico because
Hmm.
last time I went, I stayed at a resort which was fantastic. It was literally 2 weeks of luxury. But like for myself, I very much like to go off the beaten track and sort of like see these areas, which again, much to the dismay of my parents. But like I want to go and sort of integrate and just sit in a random pub and play the Carmen and just speak to the locals. Do you know what I mean? That's the sort of thing
Mm.
I enjoy about traveling. So I would really like to go to Mexico again, that sort of area, and explore a bit more.
Yeah.
Especially because the Mayan mythology really interests me. What's it called as well? Machu Picchu in Peru.
Yes, I want to see that as well.
That looks amazing. Obviously, and I know you viewers can't see, but I'm a big guy, like, so I'd have to lose a bit of timber to do that hike.
Mm.
like,
Yeah, I think it's a couple day hike because Megan's brother, him and his now fiance, they went traveling, and they did the Machu Picchu hike and everything, and they said it was incredible. But it's a lot to deal with. You have to just a couple of days to just get there.
yeah. As I say, recently most of my travels have just been centered around the United States. Like as I say, I mentioned my friend Jose who lives in New York. I've been to visit him twice in the last. So I went for my birthday in November, and then I went in March as well. So twice very recently I've been to New York in the last year. I
Mm.
also went to Los Angeles in March as well, and that was amazing. That's probably my favorite city I've been to for a long time.
Really, I've heard the opposite from almost everyone I know.
Yeah, don't get me wrong, it has got a massive problem with homelessness, and a lot of places you visit and you see homeless people, and they just sort of like just sat there. You just you give them a bit of money if you can afford to, and sort of move on. The homeless population in Los Angeles, they're far more sort of in your face and coming up to you and asking you for money and asking you for and sort of don't leave you alone. So
Mm.
I can appreciate that that's probably an aspect of Los Angeles that people don't like. But I sort of had an advantage myself because I was visiting friends, so I was with locals who knew where to go and showed
Mm.
me the best spots. Like went down to Santa Monica Pier, went down to sort of the Pacific Ocean. It was awesome. Went for a Korean barbecue, which I've never had before. Like those,
Ooh.
you get those like fire pits in the middle of the table, and you just put the meat on. That was
Mm.
awesome, awesome experience. Really
Oh,
good
that does
food.
sound good.
I just had a really great time, and I felt like I knew it like the back of my hand already with the amount of GTA 5 that I played. I was just like, oh my god, this is GTA 5. This is it. Give me a car. Go, just give me a car. I know where to go. Um, but like, yeah, I've actually, I don't know if it's rather stupidly because who knows what's going on with this entire COVID situation. But about 2 weeks ago, I booked to go back to LA in February.
Oh,
I said,
nice.
yeah, so I booked to fly to LA for 4 days, and then I'm flying to Vegas for 4 days.
Mm.
I've never been to Las Vegas before, so I'm excited for that as well.
Yeah, well, I've never been to the United States of America. So obviously, as I said, the only place out of Europe I've been is Mexico. And me and Megan have spoken about, I think because this year in August we were going to be planning on going like a European road trip around Italy. We are going to stop off at Liechtenstein, Switzerland, that sort of things. But because of COVID, we've decided it's much more complicated, and we think that the amount of effort and stuff, because obviously certain places say, oh, if you come from this country, then you have to self-quarantine. It just became too complicated, so we're just going to postpone it
Mm.
until like next year. And we're saying that probably in 2022, we want to spend a few weeks traveling around America. And obviously Megan's a teacher, so she, in the 6 weeks holidays in like August time, she just has the whole month off, whereas me, I have to book time off, but my work are fairly good with that sort of thing. So we were saying that we want to go because when I first started seeing Megan, I think from us meeting up, from our meeting online, from us meeting up, it was only, I think, 2.5 weeks, and then she went on a road trip to America, like a month by herself. And she went to LA and Vegas and New Orleans and a few other places.
New
But
Orleans is definitely on my bucket list.
yeah, Megan said the food, there's some places there where the food is just insane, and that's really what I want to go for. I want to see, I've heard it's incredible. And
Like,
Vegas got the Grand Canyon.
you haven't like if you think the food is good in the UK, if you like say burgers in the UK, if you like like all the regular shit here in America, it's dialed up. Do you know what I mean? Like it's fantastic, all of it. Like, I can't think of a bad meal that I've had in America ever.
I had Five Guys for the first time, like, last week. The burgers.
It's insane. It's the only thing is, I as much as I love Five Guys burgers, like they taste awesome, and they're really good. I can't justify paying £15 for a burger and chips all the time. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. We did it as like a special. Me and Megan were in lockdown. We just had one takeaway a month, and the takeaway we decided end of last month was Five Guys. We got shakes, fries, and the burgers, and yeah, it was. Megan, we collected it. We drove to a place near us and collected it, and it was near enough 30 quid. If you go for a meal, like a sit-down meal at a restaurant, it's not really far off 30 quid. So it is that kind of. A lot of people said on reviews online. No one online in England said Five Guys are crap. Everyone just says it's good, but it's not worth 15 quid. It's worth like a tenner. So I do get that.
I'll tell you what is worth 15 quid a time though. Shake Shack, right? I'm under the impression there's a Shake Shack in Cardiff, but I've never been. I don't tend to visit Cardiff that much. I'm usually sort of in the Swansea area. But I went to Shake Shack quite a bit when I was in New York, and that is mega expensive. That's like $20, which is equivalent to like 15 quid for burger, chips. Is it alright? But it's worth it. It's the best like shitty fast food thing ever. Like, or Wendy's, which is significantly cheaper. Like when I meet Americans, they're like, oh yeah. So what do you like about America? I'll tell them first thing, Wendy's. Wendy's is the best fast food ever. I'm so annoyed that we haven't got any here. But yeah, it's the best.
But you guys have got Denny's there, because obviously I hadn't had Denny's before, and there's the Denny's in Swansea, and it's like, I think Swansea, and I think it's Glasgow or Edinburgh, it's like one in Scotland and one in Wales, and they're the only places in the UK that you can get a Denny's. And I remember when I think Alex or you said to me, oh, by the way, there's a Denny's that's opened up here, and me and Megan were like, you fucking what? What have you just said to me? And like, oh, there's Denny's, do you want to go? It's like, of course I want to fucking go. What kind of question is that? And we went, and I think the first time we went, me and Megan got about 5 plates each or something stupid, and we got like
I remember I was there as well when we had a lot of food that day, didn't we?
Yeah, we had a takeaway box. So I think we got like pumpkin pie and tater tots, hush puppies, and then also pancakes. I think I had chicken and waffles, but then also I had shake and the hush puppies or tater tots, whichever, and the pumpkin pie, and I had something else as well. And then Megan basically had the same but worse. We had to take the pumpkin pie home. I think we ate it on the drive home.
Yeah, like, yeah. Don't get me wrong. The Swansea Denny's is not a patch on any Denny's you'll have in America. It's like, it's just a different culture. It's different. You get different levels of service. Like like people will always say like American hospitality is always a lot better than the UK, but it's usually because their entire income's reliant on tips, whereas not so much here. But yeah, Denny's in Swansea, it's alright. Like, if anyone of your listeners is thinking of driving, you know, when the lockdown's over, don't come now, Wales is closed at the minute, right? You're laughing, but you'd be surprised you'd be surprised how many idiots are driving from England into Wales doing all this when there's different restrictions. Like there was an ITV Wales thing. There was a thing, right? And they filmed the police stopping this bloke, and he went, "Oh, but don't we rule Wales as well?" And they were like, "No." It's devolved, mate. Educate yourself. And there's stories of people coming from Blackpool who were stopping police in North Wales, going, "Oh, is there anywhere nice we can visit?" And they're like, "Yeah, there's about 4 of them on your way home. Go home." Like. So, yeah, if any of your listeners are contemplating driving from wherever they are living to Swansea after lockdown, I wouldn't. It's not worth it. It's not worth it.
Shatter my dreams. I mean, well, you're well-travelled. Obviously, you've been to America now with lush food. It's very weird because there's a couple of things that everyone in the world, you know, the stereotypes of Britain, which... And Brits are no one in England actually takes offence to the British stereotypes, but it's like, we've got bad teeth, which I would generally disagree with, but then if you do walk around certain areas of, I know Southampton, you've got an area called Shirley, and it's nicknamed the Mutant Mile, because the closer it is to the centre of town, there's quite a lot of normal people, but it's just this one stretch of road, and the further you walk away from town, the higher percentage of people you'd see as, I think a lot of the time it's like grebos and things like that, you know, basically people who look like they're smoking meth or crack, and they're walking towards you like twitching and covered in mud, and their teeth were rotting, and that sort of thing. Obviously, a lot of these people are downtrodden. There's a lot of, you know, there's a lot of systematic problems not helping these people. I don't want to have to try. I know every time I say something now I have to put a little asterisk by it. By the way, I'm not bigoted, but I had to put that in there to clarify. But those sorts of places I do notice the bad teeth thing, like, quite a lot. It's bad teeth and shit food. That's basically Britain.
Well,
but good manners.
well, as you said, you know, by the moved up Mileage Shirley, which I have been introduced to, by the way. I've been driven up there by one of my mates. But Swansea's called Browntown. Do you know what I mean? We've got a massive heroin problem here. Not necessarily myself, you know. I'm not like, you know, I'm not finishing this podcast and, you know, going to shoot up or whatever. But like, Swansea's like bad for heroin, man, and Neath Catawba, like the neighbouring county, like, and don't get me wrong, there's a lot of what's the word? Since the 80s, since the miners' strike, since Thatcher and things like that, there's been a lot of decline in this area of the world, definitely. But like, I won't say much on that. But yeah, Swansea's called Browntown, so yeah, I see the bad teeth thing as well.
Yeah, but England, a lot of people just say we basically have bad teeth. The British thing is we're well mannered and well spoken, which is completely fucking wrong. Like, English people are so badly spoken. I mean, I'm not very well spoken. I mean, certain people hear the podcast and go, "You sound quite well spoken." It's like, you fucking kidding me? Like, I'm not. I'm like maybe average, like averagely spoken. Like, I know a couple of big words and I pronunciate occasionally, but I say water instead of water because I'm a fucking peasant.
Yeah, so my accent is again completely different to yours as well. Now, like I always say, we don't pronounce our words properly. We'll sort of like always find a shortcut. Like my favorite example, what is that over there? I'll go, what's up there? And people will get it. People will know what I'm saying, like around here. But like, it's just difference. I don't understand how accents are so different. It's very interesting, definitely, especially on such a small island, on such diverse dialects all over the place. It's mad.
Yeah, funnily enough, the episode of the podcast I released just this Sunday gone, part 1 with Moxie Labouche from Your Brain on Facts. Go check it out if you listen to this podcast. So I like to do non-subtle plugs. It's fun. It's my own stuff, so it's easy. We actually spoke about regional dialects for about 5-10 minutes because she was saying, as an American, she was saying, well, the only two accents that every American kind of knows about English is like proper, I can't actually describe what she worded it as, but it's like Yorkshire, very well spoken. Yes, my dear, well, we do speak like this because we're very posh and we do not speak any way apart from that. We do not abbreviate a single thing and we take our time. Yeah. Or there's Cockney, and that's it. For most people in America, they're like, oh, I love up the apples and pears, go on, give us some. It's like, no, what? It's like they're the only two. And it's like, there's quite a lot of give in between those two. And obviously, if you count Britain, I mean, Britain includes Scotland and Wales. And within Wales and within Scotland, you've got your own Welsh accents, but changes of the actual Welsh accent. Or the northern and southern Welsh accent is slightly different. And
yeah, so the North Wales accent is like an incorporation between mine and Liverpool, which I'm not going to try and imitate because I can't do it. But it's like quite nasally. Yeah, whereas down here, as I said, we just don't pronounce our words. We'll just always find a shortcut to not say what we're going to say. Like we don't, like you just said, you know, what you say, water. What was it?
Water. So we basically, most T's will put an apostrophe on there if you're from down south. Not water. Water. You've like a D on it.
Yeah, is it yeah, water.
It's like my stepdad is from I say he's northern. If you're from the south of England, like Southampton, you believe anything above London is northern, when actually London is actually still very down south. Ah, it's fucking northern. What, you mean literally half an hour north of London? Ah, it's northern, mate. That's the Midlands. But my stepdad, he's air quotes northern. But where's he from? He's from Chesterfield. And
yeah. That's quite northern. Like I'd forgive you for saying he's northern because he is.
Well, he sounds quite northern. Because did you meet?
I met him once. Yeah, I met him once. Yeah,
I thought you did because I think when Alex came down, yeah, you guys did, and he you can tell he's Northern because of the way he speaks things, but there's certain little things, and one of them is that they don't say they say t. So they go, but they go, instead of saying, "Oh, I'm going into the bath," they go, "I'm going into the bath," and it makes it sounds weird when you haven't heard it before, but it kind of makes sense because we're just shortening it. It's just like with you guys. There's a guy called Goff, and he's Goff of Beer Nuts Productions, to plug him. He's an Australian filmmaker, but he's blind. And he's such a good laugh to have a podcast with. I got one planned with him like September. And he was saying that the only reason that Australians have so much slang is because they just shorten absolutely everything. And they can't even say, like, I can't remember the example he gave, but it was like, if anything is more than 2 syllables, they just use the first syllable and put O at the end of it. And that's basically everything they say.
Yeah. It's mad, right? Because a lot of accents are sort of like looked down in media. Like I was trying to explain this to not explain it. I was talking about this to my dad earlier. We watched a video of some people in a village not too far from where I live, and you find that when a lot of Welsh people are on telly, they tend to present themselves as quite uneducated, quite stupid, and quite like they do though. Like they do. They're like. I can't think of an example, but basically they were filming people in a pub, and they were just, you know, the typical like small village pub, much like the pubs that you get in my village, right, where people are just saying stupid things and playing up for the cameras, and they do present themselves as stupid. Like I don't know if did you see Valley Cops on BBC iPlayer?
No, I haven't seen Valley Cops. No,
mate, right. Literally, and they did a season of Skint in Merthyr as well. Like Merthyr Tydfil is about about half hour from where I live. It's a very deprived area of Wales, especially at the Gurnos estate. And a lot of BBC or Channel 4 productions like to go to Merthyr because they get endless hours of film from there. And like in Valley Cops, as I say, they tend to represent themselves as very like stupid and aggressive. Like there was a guy who was given an interview, and some guy who he'd had a fight with or something drove past him, and he just stopped the interview. He's like, "I'm gonna punch your head in, son," and chasing the band on the road. Like, like they present themselves as stupid, and I think that's something that Welsh really stop doing because it doesn't help the case. Like,
I think the only thing anyone who isn't from England, because obviously most, or at least a lot of people in England have been to Wales. You know, it depends on where you are. If you're in the sort of mid to southern parts of England, you've probably been to Wales, but not Scotland. Whereas if you're in the northern parts, you've probably been to Scotland, but not Wales. And that's often the case. I haven't been to Scotland yet, so I'm in that. But apart from that, the world, because I've got a fair amount, I'd say about half the people who listen to the podcast are English, the other half like American. There's other people in Australia, a few other places, but generally like a 40% English, 40% American, 20% everything else. And I'm certain that the only things to do with Wales that most people have seen is basically Gavin and Stacey. And that's what people think every Welsh person's like. Is just like, well, you're either like Uncle Bryn, you're like Nez, or you're like Stacey, and that's basically the 3 types of Welsh.
Don't get me wrong. As much as I love Gavin and Stacey with all my heart, like it's fantastic. I do think it's a prime example of sort of infantilizing and making Welsh people look a bit stupid, right? It is, but yeah, I'll never say. I just love Gavin and Stacey. Like it's really good. Yeah, but if you say a lot of your audience are American, and a lot of American people that I speak to don't even know Wales exists. Like a lot of people around the world don't even know that Wales exists, right? I'll give you a prime example. In Thailand, like obviously I was in a taxi to the airport, and this was a proper taxi, not just some random woman in
no woman in a pickup truck.
Yeah, right. So I was in a taxi. I was going home, and the taxi driver, he didn't speak very good English, bless him, but he was trying to make conversation with me. Fair play to him. So we were talking, and obviously I can't speak Thai. He was like, England. I said no, Wales. He's like, oh, England. I was like, no, Wales. And then I just said, I don't know what like made me say it, but I just went, Gareth Bale. And he went, oh, Gareth Bale, I know Gareth Bale, yeah. And that was it. Like the symbols for Wales across the world are Gareth Bale, who's a footballer, and Tom Jones, who's a singer. Tom Jones is definitely still alive. Last time I checked. I remember he was he became quite famous in America before, or back in the day, didn't he? But he was also quite famous in the 90s as well with Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and stuff. He was like, Carlton loved Tom Jones, like, famously. But like, yeah, a lot of Americans I speak to, they go, "Is that somewhere in England?" No, it's not. I generally have to explain then.
You have to explain. It's basically, imagine England as this nice, perfect body, and then you've got this tumour on the side. That's Wales. Yeah?
No.
I would be kind. I genuinely love Wales. I'm only putting obviously, I love Wales and I haven't got anything against Welsh people. But it's like, I used to go there a lot as a kid. But the one thing, obviously, one of the reasons Alex moved up there to where you guys are is because the house price is so cheap. It's like offensive. Because like, my mates Jasmine and Reese, who Reese has been on the podcast, obviously you mentioned it before, he was on the first ever episode of Genuine Chit Chat and a couple since. Him and Jasmine, they were talking about moving to Wales because they were looking at housing and stuff, and they were like, well, Southampton is a fairly expensive place in the UK anyway, but it's because there's a lot of jobs, there's a lot of infrastructure. Generally if you go places where there's not as much, it's generally cheaper. But like in Southampton, I think London is much more expensive than Southampton, but Southampton, for a house that's like a decent sized 3-bed house, 3 bedrooms, 2 being double bedrooms, 1 single, and then maybe 2 lounges downstairs or something in a garden, you're looking at 250 to 300 grand, about thereabouts. Sometimes
Christ.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Whereas over there, I think it's something like, for basically the same thing, it's about 100 grand.
Yeah, if you were spending 300 grand on a house around here, that is a lovely house. That is a close to a mansion, like that.
Yeah, whereas over here it's not. Here it's like the house I used to live in as a kid. It was a fairly big house, to be fair, but that sold for about 230k, and that was a 3-bed, 2 double bedrooms upstairs, 1 single bedroom up. Well, actually, 3 double bedrooms upstairs. What's I talking about? 3 upstairs double bedrooms, a bathroom upstairs, a bathroom downstairs, and 2 lounges downstairs, and obviously the kitchen. And it is 230, 240k. I think it sold for. And then I remember me and Megan were looking online at places in Wales because we were just looking at houses and stuff, and we're like, okay, our price limit over here in England is between 2 and 300k. Well, over in Wales, that would literally, the amount of land you can buy, and you can basically live as a king over there, and it's like, makes me sad.
I wouldn't say it's necessarily true. Like, I know that
Don't
a lot
ruin my dreams, sure. I can live as a king, and I'll be king of Wales with a 200 grand house.
Right, now that's where we get into the adversarial history between Wales and England. We're not going to do that. But like, you can buy a terraced house on just a regular old street for, like, especially in the area that I live in, for about 80-90k.
Can't even buy a flat over here for that much. Like a 1-bed flat. If I wanted to buy a 1-bedroom flat for myself, I might be able to get one for that amount.
I'm just trying to think. Yeah, 2-bedroom house, about 80-90k. As I said, if you're spending 300 grand on a house around here, you're going to get a lovely sort of like 5-bedroom balconies. Like, if it's 300 grand, it's quite a posh house around here. Like, but cost of living is essentially the same. We get lower wages as well around here as well, because obviously you lot of high, inflated rent prices, inflated house prices. Cost of living is a lot more expensive, sort of, in England, but the closer to London you are, I know you're about an hour away from London and you're in Southampton, so or an hour and a half. So like that sort of general area, it is more expensive to sort of live as far as housing, but groceries still cost the same. But we get lower wages around here.
It's because you suck. You don't. I love you, Sean. I had to throw some shade. I love you. But it's getting quite late, mainly because both of our webcams are very dark now.
Yeah, I've noticed. I've just been noticing over time they've been going darker and darker. Yeah.
We've been talking for on air for nearly 2 hours, off air more than 2 hours. It's probably a good time to wrap it up, or I'll eat up your entire evening. But I would say, where can people find you? We had a nice conversation about social media, how you don't have any. So where can people find you? I'll give you, anyone who wants to know, I'll give you his address, because I've got Alex's address, and I know it's one to the left, the one to the right. So I'll give you an address. I'll give you two addresses, and one's going to be Sean's house, and the other one's going to be someone else's. So that's how you can find Sean.
Yeah, it's just this, what's it, roulette wheel. But don't come until lockdown's over, right? Come to visit Wales later, right? But no, I'm not here to promote any social media. As I said, I don't have any. I hope people enjoy the conversation and find me entertaining. But if they want to engage with me, I suppose they can do it via you.
If you want to pass Sean a message, send me an email and I'll read it to him on the phone.
Yeah, yeah. Even that Welsh bloke, I thought he was a bit of an idiot, but he was all right. Just send that shit, and he'll phone me with it.
Hopefully, at some point, you'll have a podcast, and then there'll be some sort of reference point. But then you can give Jack all the social media, and then you don't have to touch any of it.
I've told him we're at a bit of a dilemma because he hates social media just as much as mine, but he just as I do. But he hasn't taken the steps to delete it or anything. He's still on it. So he said, "Oh look, you're still on it. So if it, when this thing does kick off, then you can be in charge because I'm not touching it."
I said you can only put your show on here, but that's perfect. As I said, it's been an absolute delightful chatting with you, just chatting shit. It's just been a lot of fun, and I'll definitely have you on again.
Oh, yeah, well, I'd be happy to come on again. Just give me a shout when all your interesting guests are busy, and I'll come on instead. I've loved it, mate. I thought, I don't know what I'm going to say. I don't know what points I'm going to get across, but it was quite fluid, didn't it? I thought we did quite well there. So yeah, I'm
definitely. Especially in the case of where you and I have been in lockdown for 3 months, and we've basically not done anything for like 3 months, and we managed to talk. Rather normally it's like, what have you been up to? Oh well, this week I did this, and this. It's like, what have you done for the last 3 months? About 5 things, but every day.
Yeah, 5 days every day for the last 3 months. No. But it's been awesome talking to you, mate, and I'm sure I'll give you a message in a bit now just to make sure that it's okay. But yeah, I really enjoyed it, and as I said, when all the interesting people are busy, give me a shout. I'll come back on, no problem.
You downplay yourself far too much. It's awesome. Cool. And that's the end of the podcast. Thanks as always for tuning in, guys. As I said in the intro, if you haven't listened to the previous episode with Sean, I really recommend that. We had a great laugh doing that too. But coming up in the following weeks, I've got a 2-parter recorded with my friend Janine Mercer. She's been on the podcast before, and we talk about a lot of cool and crazy things there. I've still got the Parents Guide to GCSE podcast recorded, which I will be releasing, I believe, in August. I've got a 2-parter recorded with a gentleman called Bruce Wozniak. He is the creator of Now Hear This as a business and the Now Hear This Entertainment podcast. So we had a really good chat about a wide variety of things too. That'll be coming out in the next couple months too. I've got a podcast recording due coming this Friday with someone else, and then the week after that I've got Scott Weatherly of the 20th Century Geek due to have a recording with myself, who I collaborated with in my sort of run of Star Wars collaborations with the guys from Comics in Motion, which were released just before December of last year. And yeah, I mean, there's a lot of other things kind of in the pipeline and things. I've got other chats recorded. I also want to confirm that the first 2 weeks of August I'm going to be away. Myself and Megan are sort of travelling around England a little bit, just because we were planning on travelling around Europe, but because of COVID it's not really seeming like the best option at the moment, so probably going to postpone that to next year. So we're just going to travel around a little bit. What I'm considering doing is just not taking the podcasting equipment, but phones are fairly good at recording audio, so I was tempted for the first or potentially the second week in August, just releasing like almost a combination of things that me and Megan have been talking about when we've been on our travels, when we're going to be driving in the car and things, where we're going to be going and that sort of thing. So I'm leaning on that. I think I'll probably do something along those lines. So generally, that's what you can kind of look forward to over the coming month or so. A chat with Janine Mercer, that's going to be 2 parts, my travelling, and a chat with Bruce Wozniak, and a few other things too. And as I said, I always appreciate anyone listening, going on social media and following us, as well as putting reviews on iTunes or Stitcher or wherever you listen to the show. It does make a real difference to us, me. It makes a real difference to me, so I really appreciate that. And spreading via word of mouth, and even checking out the back catalogue. You know, I've got so many different episodes, so many different people have been on the show. There's bound to be at least one other show that you're going to enjoy if you so desire. You can either just look on, whatever podcast app you're on and check for each description and things. You can contact me. You can email me at genuinechitchat@outlook.com or contact me on any of the social media channels, and I'm happy to speak with you and give some recommendations. Or you can check on YouTube. For clarity, very few people listen on YouTube, but I've put all of the chats into playlists that are there's like a science playlist, there's a music playlist, there's a other podcaster playlist, so if you want to find something which has got loads of other podcasters and things in. There's movie ones, there's funnier ones, there's ones about social and political things, so lots of different playlists there that I've kind of organised things into. So if you're a bit unsure what to check out and you don't really fancy contacting me and you want to just quickly do it, I'd say to check out on YouTube. The last other thing I was going to say is I've got my other show, Star Wars Comics in Canon, that airs every Saturday on the feed of Comics in Motion, which are guys I've done regular collaborations with in a wide variety of ways. And each of those episodes are normally between 20 and 40 minutes, where it's just myself speaking about a run of Star Wars comics that are in the new canon that all connect to the wider universe. So the one I just did, which I released yesterday, was one about Lando Calrissian. His full name is Landonis Balthazar Calrissian. So I did there's a run of comics, there's 5 issues of it with him and a character called Lobot. That was really cool, and he basically goes to find Palpatine's pleasure yacht and finds lots of crazy Sith artifacts. So that's a really fun one. I just basically generally talk about the story points in a comic and also add other connections to the Star Wars universe, as well as giving little bits of information about certain characters, like when they were born and where they were at certain points in the timeline and other things like that. So if you're really into Star Wars, whether you either just like the movies or you're really heavily into them, I would recommend checking that out, because it's good if you already have read the comics. It adds some sort of information. It's like a guide, so it kind of adds more depth and things to something you've already read. Or if you don't really have the huge amount of interest in delving into the comic world, it's a really good way of kind of opening the door, so you understand the general narrative of the expanded canon without having to spend loads of money or time consuming all of the comic content, although I'd always recommend people do to support the artists and the industry in itself. So yeah, that's basically it. The last one was about Lando. The one before that was about Darth Vader. I think the one before that was about Mace Windu. The next week's one is going to be the Vader Down crossover between the main run of Star Wars comics, which has got Leia, Han, Luke and Chewie in it, mixing with the main run of Vader comics, which is Vader, Dr. Aphra and the homicidal droids 000 and BT-1. So a lot of fun things. And then I think the week after that is going to be the Galaxy's Edge miniseries, which is connected to the place at Disney World, Galaxy's Edge. Lots of cool things there, and I really love doing that show, so really recommend any of you guys check that out if you're into Star Wars at all, but no pressure at all if not. That's enough rambling and yammering on from me, guys. I really appreciate everyone listening, especially if you can hear this part. You've listened right to the very end, and I appreciate that with all my being. So thank you so much, guys. I really hope you're all being safe, and I hope you've been still enjoying the podcast and things, and yeah, I'll talk to you next week.